Imagine watching a 40-year-old family legacy burn to the ground in less than an afternoon. I'm talking about FBI vans parked on the sidewalk, the stock price hitting absolute zero in real time, and the man who caused it all, the arrogant, untouchable new CEO, being escorted out the revolving doors in handcuffs. It was beautiful. The craziest part is that he did it to himself. All I did was exactly what he told me to do. I sent the email he asked for. I clicked the button he demanded I click. They called it corporate sabotage. I called it malicious compliance. Before we get into the nuclear fallout, if you enjoy seeing arrogant bosses get exactly what they deserve, smash that subscribe button. It helps the channel and keeps the karma flowing. Let's get into the story. To understand why this went so wrong for them, you have to understand my role. I have been in the logistics game for 15 years. I am a systems architect. It sounds fancy, but my job is to ensure that when a company ships hazardous materials across state lines, the computer systems stop them from doing anything illegal. It is boring, tedious, and incredibly important because the fines for messing this up are astronomical. I worked for a mid-sized logistics firm in the Midwest. Let's call them Logie Corp. The founder, Old Man Jenkins, was a decent man. Tough, but fair. He understood that my department, Compliance IT, was the only thing standing between him and a federal indictment. He paid me well, left me alone, and let me build what I call the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome wasn't just a spreadsheet. It was a massive, automated system that checked every single truck manifest against federal DOT regulations. If a truck was overweight, the system flagged it and locked the gate. If a driver was over their service hours, the system locked them out of the ignition. It was perfect. It was a fortress of logic designed to keep the company safe from itself. However, Old Man Jenkins decided to retire to Florida. He wanted to play golf and drink margaritas. Instead of handing the reins to his capable VP of operations, he handed them to his son. Let's call him Julian. Julian was something else. He was 30 years old, held an MBA from university his dad donated a building to, and had never worked a real day in his life. He drove a leased Porsche, wore suits that cost more than my house, and had disruptive ideas. His first week on the job, he called an all-hands meeting. He walked onto the stage looking like he just left a fashion shoot and started talking about trimming the fat. He used every buzzword in the book: synergy, lean operations, agile methodology, AI, integration. I sat in the back, sipping my coffee, assuming this was standard corporate fluff. Then he put up a slide. Under unnecessary overhead was a picture of my department. My stomach dropped. I leaned over to my colleague Dave, who works in accounting, and whispered, "Did he just list federal compliance as overhead?" Dave looked at me with wide, terrified eyes and nodded slowly. I thought maybe he did not understand what we do. He was new. I would explain it to him. That was a huge mistake. A few days later, I received a summons to Julian's office. It was not an invitation. His secretary, Sarah, looked like she was about to quit any second when she told me, "He's ready for you now." I walked in. Julian was putting golf balls into a cup in his office. He did not look up when I entered. He asked, "Marcus, right? The IT guy?" I replied, "Yes, sir. Senior systems architect." He finally looked at me, squinting, and said, "Right. Listen, I have been looking at the numbers. Your software, this Iron Dome thing, is slowing us down. My sales team tells me we are losing contracts because we cannot ship fast enough. The system keeps flagging our trucks for weight limits." I stood there, trying to keep my face neutral. "Yes, sir. Federal weight limits. If we go over, it is a violation of DOT regulations. The fines are substantial." He cut me off, waving his hand dismissively. "I don't care about the fines, Marcus. The fines are pennies compared to the contracts we are losing." I did the math. We pay the fine, we keep the client. It is simple economics. You tech guys always missed the forest for the trees. I was stunned. He thought he could just pay the fines like parking tickets. I tried to explain, "Sir, it is not just money. If we systematically violate these laws, they can pull our operating license. We could get shut down. The software is there to protect the company from prison." He laughed. It was a condescending, movie villain laugh. "Protect the company? Marcus, I am a company now. I'm telling you the software is a bottleneck. I want you to disable the weight limit protocols and the driver hour logs. We need our guys driving longer routes, and we need those trucks full. 110% capacity." I stood my ground. I worked too hard to go to jail for this man. I said, "I cannot do that, Julian. It is illegal. It is dangerous. If a driver falls asleep at the wheel because we bypass the safety checks, that is on us. That is gross negligence." His face went purple. He slammed the putter down on his desk. "I am not paying you to be a lawyer, Marcus. I am paying you to code. Are you refusing a direct order from your CEO?" In that moment, I knew the company was dead. He was going to burn it down. The only question was whether I would burn with it. I took a deep breath. I kept my face stoic. I said, "I need to check the system dependencies. It is not just a switch. I need to code a bypass. Let me get back to you by end of day." He sneered at me. "You have until 5 p.m., where you can pack your desk. I have a firm in India ready to take over your job for half the price by tomorrow morning." I walked back to my office. My heart was pounding, but I was not angry anymore. I was cold. I was calculating. I realized that if I refused, he would fire me, hire a contractor to disable the system, and when the feds came knocking, Julian would blame me. He would say I was incompetent. I needed insurance. I needed a paper trail so bright it could be seen from space. I sat down at my desk and drafted an email. This was not just any email. It was a masterpiece of corporate documentation. I wrote, "Dear Julian, per our conversation this morning at 10:15 a.m., you have ordered me to disable the automated DOT compliance protocols within the shipping manifest system. Specifically, you have requested the removal of the modules governing maximum gross weight and driver service hours. I am writing to formally advise you, as the senior systems architect, that disabling these features will result in the company being in direct violation of Federal Regulation 49 CFR Part 395 and Part 396. This could result in severe financial penalties, loss of licensure, and criminal negligence charges in the event of an accident. Please confirm that you understand these risks and that you're issuing a direct order to disable these safety protocols immediately." I hit send. Then I waited. I figured seeing it in writing might make him stop. Maybe he would realize written evidence of a crime is bad. I underestimated his arrogance. He felt untouchable. 10 minutes later, the reply came in. It was glorious. It was the smoking gun. He wrote back, "Marcus, stop wasting my time with this bureaucratic nonsense. I run this company, not the government. I don't care about the regulations. I care about profit. Disable it now. If it's not done by 5 p.m., you are fired for insubordination." I printed that email. I printed it to a PDF. I saved it to my hard drive. I saved it to a USB drive. I emailed it to my personal account. I even took a photo of the screen with my phone. I don't care about the regulations. I don't care about the government. It was a signed confession. So I did it. I opened up the back end of the Iron Dome. I went into the configuration files. I turned it off. However, this is the malicious compliance part. I didn't just turn it off. The system had a diagnostic mode. When diagnostic mode is active, it doesn't stop bad transactions, but it logs them in extreme detail for auditing purposes. It creates a permanent, read-only record of every single error. It records the weight, the driver, the time, and, most importantly, the user ID that authorized the override. I disabled the blocks, but I enabled full diagnostic logging. Just for good measure, I set the logs to auto-backup to an external cloud server that was technically owned by the legal department's audit account, which nobody had checked in 3 years. I finished the code changes at 4:55 p.m. I sent Julian one last email. Protocols disabled as requested. The system will no longer block overweight or overtime shipments. I have logged this change under ticket number 666. Then, I typed up my resignation letter. Effective immediately. I packed my box. I took my plants. I took my stapler. I walked out. Sarah, the secretary, looked at me as I left. I gave her a nod. Good luck, I whispered. The next 6 months were fascinating to watch from the outside. I secured a new job quickly. Better pay, less stress. I worked for a tech startup downtown, but I kept an eye on Logi Corp stock. Predictably, it went up. They were cheating. They were running trucks 20% overweight. They were pushing drivers to do 16-hour shifts. Their margins looked incredible because they were breaking every law in the book. I heard through the grapevine that Julian was bragging about it. He told the board, "See, I told you Marcus was holding us back. We are doing record numbers." He even gave an interview to a business magazine where he called himself a logistics visionary. He was on the cover, smiling that smug smile. I drank my tea and waited. I knew something Julian didn't. I knew that the Department of Transportation performs random audits. Logi Corp was due for their major safety review in November. It happened sooner than that. It was October, a rainy Tuesday. I was sitting in my new job when I received a text from Dave. It said, "It is happening." I texted back, "What is happening?" He replied, "Everything. Feds are here. They are seizing the servers." Julian is crying in his office. Here is what happened. Apparently, one of Logi Corp's overweight trucks had caused a massive accident on the interstate. The bridge it was crossing wasn't rated for that kind of weight. The truck damaged the structure. The state police investigated. They weighed the wreckage. It was 15,000 pounds over the legal limit. That triggered an immediate federal investigation. When the investigators showed up, they demanded the logs. Julian tried to stonewall them. He tried to lie. He told them it was a computer glitch. He tried to blame the old IT guy, me, for leaving bad code in the system. He actually told the investigators, on record, I relied on my chief architect, Marcus, to ensure compliance. If the system failed, it is because of his incompetence. He was a disgruntled employee. Julian played himself. The investigators subpoenaed me. I didn't even need a lawyer. I walked into the interview room, sat down, and they played the recording of Julian blaming me. The agent asked, "Did you knowingly configure the system to allow illegal shipments?" I said no. I configured the system to block them. I was ordered, under threat of termination, to disable those blocks. The agent looked skeptical. "Can you prove that?" He says, "You did it out of spite." I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. I slid the golden email across the table. The agent picked it up. He read it. He read the part where Julian said, "I run this company, not the government." He read the part where Julian said, "I don't care about regulations." The agent's eyebrows shot up. He let out a low whistle. He looked at his partner, then back at me. He asked, "Can you authenticate this?" I said, "It is on the company's server. And if you check the legal department's audit cloud, you will find a read-only log of every single illegal shipment authorized by Julian's account for the last 6 months. There are probably 4,000 of them. Each one is stamped with his digital signature. The fallout was swift and brutal. It was total nuclear winter for Logi Corp. Because I had enabled that logging feature, the feds didn't just have one accident to pin on them. They had thousands of violations. Every single one carried a fine. The total fines amounted to $40 million. That wasn't the worst part. Because Julian had put in writing that he knowingly disregarded the law, the insurance company voided their policy. They refused to cover the accident. They refused to cover the fines. They sued Logie Corp for fraud. Logie Corp was on the hook for everything. The stock price evaporated. It went from $45 a share to pennies in a week. The board of directors held an emergency meeting. They fired Julian immediately, but it was too late. The company's reputation was destroyed. They lost their operating license in 3 states. And Julian? Remember the FBI? Knowingly ordering your employees to falsify federal records and violate safety laws is a felony. It is called conspiracy to defraud. Because of the golden email, he couldn't plead ignorance. He couldn't blame the IT guy. He had signed his own confession. I went to the sentencing hearing. I sat in the back. Julian didn't look like a fashion model anymore. He looked tired. He looked small. When the judge read the sentence, 5 years in federal prison, Julian started crying. He looked back at the gallery, and for a second, we made eye contact. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just nodded. The same nod I gave Sarah when I left. Stoic. The company was bought out for pennies on the dollar by a competitor. The best part? The competitor that bought them realized they needed someone who understood the old Logie Corp systems to help with the transition. They needed someone to clean up the mess. They called me. They offered me a contracting gig. My rate? 3 times what Julian was paying me. The first thing they asked me to do was turn the Iron Dome back on. What is the lesson here? It is about respect. Julian thought that because I was quiet, because I was just the IT guy, I was powerless. He thought his suit and his title made him untouchable. He mistook silence for weakness. He forgot the most important rule of the corporate world. Never pick a fight with the person who holds the keys to the digital kingdom, especially if that person knows how to use the Save as PDF button. If you have ever had a boss like Julian, someone who thought they were above the rules, let me know in the comments. I read all of them. If you want to hear more stories about malicious compliance and corporate justice, make sure you are subscribed. We have a story coming up next week about a homeowners association president who tried to find a lawyer for planting the wrong kind of roses and ended up losing her house. You do not want to miss that. Stay stoic, stay smart, and always keep a paper trail. See you in the next one.